Global Talk Radio out of Atlanta, Georgia. And our host today is Pastor LaTarsha. She will be talking and discussing issues that are affecting our families, our children, and destroying our communities around the world. Pastor LaTarsha will shed light on issues that our children are facing, and she will give parents tips to be useful in helping their children become more productive. But Pastor LaTarsha's goal is to share resources that will benefit people from all around the world. Global Talk Radio is not just local, it's not just national, but it's international. So sit back and get relaxed for the next 30 minutes and listen to Global Talk Radio with your host, Pastor LaTarsha.
Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thanks for tuning in to Global Talk Radio. I'm your host, Pastor LaTarsha, where every day and everywhere people's lives matter. Every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I discuss topics that affect our youth, families, and communities in which we live. As many of you know, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. This show is dedicated to all those who have lost their lives and for those who are survivors. Let's go before God in prayer. Father, this is a sensitive subject that has destroyed many lives, families, and even caused some to meet an untimely death. Father, we ask you right now that you restore and comfort those who have been abused by those who said they loved them, by those who vowed to protect them. Heal the hearts of those who lost loved ones from this senseless act of violence. Father, use this broadcast to educate and liberate those in bondage. In Jesus' name, amen. For those of you just tuning in, welcome to Global Talk Radio. This is your host, Pastor LaTarsha. You know, domestic violence is a subject I'm not a stranger to. From a black eye hit upside the head with a bottle to being in a heated argument with my ex, as he pointed a sawed-off 12-gauge gun at me, and out the blue, boom! As the bullet was released, the sound was deafening to my ears. The gun was discharged and missed me by a few inches. With tears falling up my eyes and streaming down my face, I stood there in horror. According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, on average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the United States. Nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by intimate partners in the United States. During 1 year, this equated to more than 10 million women and men. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have been victims of some form of physical violence by an intimate partner within their lifetime. On a typical day, there are more than 20,000 phone calls placed to domestic violence hotlines nationwide. Calls of despair, calls of frantic voices desperately crying out for help. Women who were once wooed and loved by the men they thought were their soulmates, by the men they thought would love them forever. And now they find themselves bunking with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. A person who has become a stranger that they don't even recognize anymore. But you see, it's a good time to leave a woman believing maybe he's changed. It's a seemingly sincere, I'm sorry, that keeps one holding on, leaving the family in disarray. And then we wonder why she just don't leave. Where will she go? The question races through her mind. You see, her options are few. Now she has to begin to choose between being beaten or being homeless with her children. I know many of you might think that's an easy decision, but it's not. Well, you have a roof over your children's head, where you're able to feed them daily. And now you have to make a decision whether you take your children and live on the street or take the abuse by the man who told you he would love you forever. Many times we don't understand one's decision or plight until we have walked in their shoes. And then when me and my ex, we went our separate ways, I'm not going to lie to you people, I was lost, scared, hopeless, and found myself homeless with 6 children. My self-esteem was shattered and my self-identity and self-worth were in turmoil. You would think maybe my nightmare has went away. But what does a woman do when she's uneducated, underemployed, and now she has children that she has to look after? One might recognize that staying with the abusive partner might be better. You never could understand why one would choose to stay in that situation. But see, I had to start over. Here I am, because I'm going to keep it real, my sisters. I'm not saying, believe me, it's nothing I've done that got me to where I'm at, but only by the grace of God. When my ex-husband left me, I was at the lowest of the barrel. My thinking about myself, my self-worth was shot, and I had no identity of who I really was. And now I'm left homeless with 6 children. And I had only a GED at the time. I was scared, like so many of you. I was laughed at and talked about. I didn't have family support. So to those who think why she just don't leave the man, why she just don't get her kids and run away. For some of us, where are we going to go? Although we are living in a nightmare, one cannot begin to understand what it feels like to not know where you're going with your children in the midnight hour. That's why we got to be careful of judging one another. Sometimes we can do more harm than good. You see, anyone could be a victim of domestic violence. There are no typical victims. You see, victims of domestic violence come from all walks of life, varying age groups, all backgrounds, all educational levels, and crosses all racial and cultural boundaries. See, domestic violence don't care if you're rich or poor, black or white, educated or uneducated, living in Buckhead or Bankhead. There's no typical victim that this senseless violence cannot occur. Most victims want the abuse to end, but not the relationship. See, the reason why we stay or we have stayed in the relationship because it's those good times. It's those good times when he's not harming you or calling you out your name or bringing physical bodily harm to you or anyone else in their home that you begin to think maybe your prayers have been heard. And maybe he's seeing the pain that he caused us and he wants to change. Most people don't want the relationship to end. They just want the abuse to end. And how many of you know that when you're a victim of domestic violence, you begin to feel isolated, depressed, helpless. And then most people are embarrassed of their situation. And then you have to think of the mother who's probably working check to check, the fear of not being able to survive without the help of the abuser. See, all these things plays a factor as to why she does not leave. Why she does not leave. Most people don't even have family support. Until you've been ostracized and criticized, lied, and talked about, you cannot begin to understand the mental fogginess that this person is going through. You know, when you're depressed and feeling helpless, you're not at your best. When you are depressed and feeling hopeless, you don't make clear decisions. And although we sit and point and laugh and say, if it were us, we would do this. If it were us, we wouldn't take that. Until you are in that situation, one can never say never. One can never say never. And then most times their self-esteem has eroded, their self-worth has dwindled, and their self-confidence has diminished. Now you have a woman. See, at 44 years age, just a year ago, I began to be able to look myself in the mirror. For the first time in my life, look and not run. Some may say, what are you talking about, Pastor? Well, after you've been abused so many years, been taken advantage of, been rejected and abused, you begin to not see a person, but just a shadow of a figment of a person in a mirror. That's why I tell you, it's only by the grace of God that I'm here. It's only by the grace of God that I went from a GED to a doctoral student while homeless after leaving that abusive situation. I wasn't that smart enough to get myself out. I wasn't that brave enough to just walk this road. I wasn't. Many times I felt, well, maybe if I acted better, maybe if I did this, or maybe if I could have been this way, he would not have been mean to me. He would not have hurt me. But then a year ago, I decided to love me. My bruises, my scars, and all, my flaws and all, I began to say, it's time to love the me that I see. So yes, up until a year ago, I didn't look in the mirror. Not for long anyhow. Probably enough to brush my hair and put on a little makeup. I didn't look in the mirror long. Because I was ashamed. I was embarrassed of what I had been through. You see, although we see the man with love in our heart, the warning signs are waving right before our eyes, but we dismiss them. We dismiss them. Sometimes the warning signs are there before we even got close to the person. But maybe life has taught us that you're nobody. Who will want you? And then we begin to dismiss the warning signs. And some of the warning signs are extreme jealousy, possessiveness, unpredictability. And that's when you and your children begin to walk around like you're walking on eggshells, because now this guy's unpredictable. You don't know when he's going to go off into one of his rages. So now everyone is scared to make a mistake. Maybe you know that this gal, this lady has a bad temper, cruelty to animals. And I call these two the silent killer, verbal and mental abuse. See, this one here, you die a little bit every day. I'm going to repeat that. Because sometimes we make light of those, maybe they're not physically hitting us, but they're killing us every day, mentally and verbally and emotionally with their words. And how many of you know a black guy will go away, but those words will begin to tear at your soul. The mental and verbal abuse, you're dying every day. I call them the silent killers. Then you have some that might want to force sex upon you, and they control all the finances. See, these are the red flags that we see in the dating period. But then we try to dismiss them and say, well, maybe that's just how he is. Oh, he loves me so much. Love doesn't hurt. It took me a long time to realize that. We need to be very careful of judging a person who has not left their abuser. We need to be very careful of the advice we give someone in a shoe that we've never walked in. Because we can do more harm than good. You know, I just think back to the time I was in that situation. I found myself in a domestic violence shelter. I was there maybe 2 weeks, but I wasn't ready to leave the guy. You know, sometimes we don't leave until we've had enough is enough and is enough. So sometimes you even go back to the abuser. That's what I did. Well, because in my mind, after being beat down and told who will want you, where you're going to go, we began to believe their lies. And my sisters and brothers, that's what it is, lies. To keep us in bondage. It's a serious subject. Every time I think back to that night when me and my ex-husband was in a heated argument, and I remember standing in the bedroom, and I remember glaring down that barrel of that sawed-off 12 gauge while he's ranting and raving. And I remember standing there pleading with him to just put the gun down. We can talk without that. And he just kept, he was in such a rage of anger that the gun went off. And I think after I came back from being in shock, because I didn't know whether I was hit or not, and I think it scared him, I began to realize that my reality is a nightmare. I began to realize that this wasn't love. And then I began to think at that time I only had 4 children. But I believe an angel was there with me on that night, because he was pointing the gun directly at me when it went off. and went just a few inches from me and hit the wall. And ever since then, I just vowed to be a community advocate. I vowed to do my part in speaking out and standing up, and to love and spread love and hope around the world. Let's take a commercial break, and when we return, I want to share some signs that maybe you or someone you know might be in an abusive relationship. Welcome back. This is your host, Pastor LaTarsha, Global Talk Radio, discussing a sensitive topic, domestic violence. I believe that the church needs to do a better job about making it known that being abused is not part of God's plan for anyone, and that any form of abuse is not love. You know, they say that domestic violence is a taboo when speaking in churches. I only think maybe it's a taboo because some leaders don't want to confront an issue that they're doing to their wives. But I'm here to tell you, first ladies, my sisters, my brothers, my teenagers, any form of abuse is not love. That is a lie from the enemy that is sent to keep you in bondage and caged behind the mental bars of your mind. Any form of abuse is not love. You see, no one deserves to be harmed in any way. But here are some questions to help you see if you are in an unhealthy relationship. And the reason why this is necessary is because there are some who grew up thinking that this is how one should be treated, or that abuse is love because this is what they grew up around. You have some women and probably some men that this is all they know. This is what they saw their fathers and mothers do, and grandmothers, grandfather, aunts, and uncles, or just the environment in which they grew up in. Some people don't even know that this is not love. Sad to say, for some, this might be normal. But here's some questions just to bring you to some awareness that maybe this is not right. It doesn't make me feel good when I just sit down and look at it all together. First thing one needs to ask themselves, do they make fun of you or put you down? See, someone that loves you will not humiliate you. Do they make you feel like you are unable to make decisions? Do they tell you that you are nothing without them? And do they push, grab, shove, or hit you? That is not love. And then we got some that are master manipulators. They will even blame you for their action. Then you have some that will want to prevent you from spending time with family and friends. They want to isolate you. Ask yourself these questions. Do it make you feel good being with that person? Do that person bring out the best in you? Or do that person make you feel or wish that you are dead, that you are nothing? That is not a relationship that God has for you. Any form, whether it's mental, verbal, emotional, financial, any form of abuse is not love. No matter what you grew up seeing or what the environment may have told you, it is a lie from the enemy himself. And I want you all to know, my brothers and sisters, something I had to learn. It took me forever to seem like it doesn't matter how much you love them. It doesn't matter what you try to do or go out your way for them. It won't get any better. It just won't. Until that person seeks help, until that person sees there's a problem with their action, there's not enough love for you that you can give them that will change them. If this sounds like something you might be in but don't know where to go or what to do, please call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Again, that number is 1-800-799-7233. You are worth so much more, and God has plans for your life. You know, I shared my story in a book called No Longer Lost, and also written a youth series to help our youth even deal with some of these tough issues that we might find ourselves in as well. You can go to Amazon and get my documentary. My documentary, it just shows the love and mercy and grace of God. Because sometimes we need to be able to see. If God did it for that lady and her 6 children, God would do it for me. Because God is no respecter of persons. He does not have favorites. We're all special in the eyes of God. Everything is available on Amazon. I am available for speaking engagements. You can reach me at LaTarshaHolden@yahoo.com, or you can contact me at 404-838-9587. That's 404-838-9587. Thank you for tuning in to Global Talk Radio. I'm your host, Pastor LaTarsha.